Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Campus Conservative. We have a very special guest today. He's a contributor at The Lone Conservative and at Refined Right, and is a junior at Drexel University. He actually just got into a debate recently with the Drexel Democrats. Please welcome Kareem Mathias. Kareem, how are you doing today?
I am doing stupendous. And, you forgot one thing. I'm also co-host of On the Line, a show that you might know something about. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, On the Line, it's such a new show, but, you did really good on it last week, and I'm so happy to have you on. Thanks for coming.
No problem. So, what do you want to unpack today? I feel like we have a nice, good hour or so to really get into something, get deep into something. So, what are we talking about today?
Well, Kareem, first I wanted your take on your college's, Republican or conservative organizations. How do they treat you? Are you interested in them? Do they really strike you as particularly conservative? I mean, tell us a little bit about them.
They're gone. There aren't any. There's not a Drexel Republicans. There's not a Drexel Young Americans for Liberty. There's nothing. The Drexel Republicans all graduated in 2010. And I actually tried to email the guy who was supposed to be ahead of it, and he didn't respond to me. So, yeah, they're all gone. There's actually no conservative presence on Drexel's campus.
But there's a bunch of liberal and socialist and leftist presence.
There's Drexel Socialists, you got the Drexel Democrats, you got the Drexel Marxists, so many.
The Drexel Marxists, it sounds like they're really fun at parties, Kareem.
Oh, yeah, they're really fun at parties. They show up and don't bring anything because they feel like they should redistribute the alcohol.
Well, it's better than the alternative. I mean, I guess the alternative could be they show up to a party and they throw a violent revolution until you give them alcohol.
And that's true. You don't want that.
Kareem, you're coming pretty close to graduation. You graduate next year, right, in 2018. So how are you feeling about going into the world of, what do you want to do when you graduate?
Well, this has actually changed so much. When a few months ago, I was really thinking about going to get a PhD in economics, but unfortunately, I decided to do it a little late, and I didn't have enough math on my transcripts to get me in anywhere good, like Yale, Harvard, UCLA, or anything. So I would have to go to the University of Delaware or somewhere more obscure. So then I considered going to law school, and I really flipped through that for a while. And I'm actually back into the idea of going to law school for a few reasons. And so I'm taking my LSATs in September. So I'm hoping to either go to Temple, Penn, or Villanova Law. And I'm really into the idea of doing that. I think law would be a very intellectually fascinating career. And I feel like if you're going to talk about politics, you just sort of have to have a JD. I think it's a requirement, unfortunately.
Are you planning to do anything specific with politics once you graduate? I guess political commentating. Are you still going to keep up the reporting skills? Because you're very good at it. You wrote a fascinating piece about California.
Yeah, I'll probably still do this throughout law school. And if I do anything political, like run for office, it most likely will be local. But I don't know if doing anything national. It depends, honestly. I'm sort of focusing on being in the city of Philadelphia, but if an opportunity opens up, then I'd take advantage of it.
So it sounds to me like you're planning to be very politically informed, but maybe not active in the political realm.
Oh, it depends, because I plan to spend a lot of my time really getting good in the law field, taking a specific skill set and trying to really specialize in it so I can outcompete my contemporaries, but it just all depends on what happens in my life at that point. I definitely would be open to the idea, and I think politics is interesting. The only reason I'm sort of shying away is because the political sphere is so crazy right now that I don't know if The Rock might be president in 2020. I don't know what to do.
And that's kind of why I brought you on today. I wanted you to talk about this because you had some really fascinating opinions about it. So as you move toward graduation, you're a responsible adult. You're a responsible adult now, but then you're totally, after you graduate college, you're totally responsible for yourself. You're pretty much actually on your own for the first time. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the whole conservative political landscape? How do you feel about how conservatives are currently represented in politics and Congress and, political commentating right now?
But there are conservatives in Congress besides Ted Cruz. I thought they were extinct. I thought they were all gone. The conservatives are not doing a good job of really, one, representing their brand, their ideology, and two, making the message resonate with people. And I think the problem is that conservatives do the enemy of my enemy is my friend routine too much, because now there are enemies all around. We have enemies on the right, we have enemies on the left, we have enemies in the middle, and that's mainly because we've allowed a lot of people to gain prominence on the coattails of being a conservative or being on the right. And when they do a bunch of wild things, it brings our reputation down. And I think we're seeing the repercussions of that, unfortunately. The fact that so many voted for Trump during the primaries, that now that he's president, all of his faults and shortcomings are our faults and shortcomings, as well as the faults and shortcomings of the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, and the Senate Majority Leader, McConnell. So I think now that the Republicans have the power, and the reason I say Republicans and conservative, they're not mutually inclusive. They're two totally different things. Conservatism is an ideology. The Republican Party is a political party that may or may not have conservative values. But the unfortunate thing is, to the regular American citizen, they're synonymous. And so the failures or the triumphs of the Republican Party are the failures and triumphs of conservatism. And if conservatism is actually going to get some failures labeled on it, I'd like to see it. I'd like to actually try conservatism without some of the blame, you know?
Well, it's really odd, and you tell me if you agree with this sentiment. When Republicans were, when Obama was in power, it seemed as if Republicans were very, very, very conservative. They were the party of conservatism. You saw a massive favoring within the Republican Party for free trade. You saw a massive favoring within the Republican Party more for equal opportunity in terms of government, get out of my way, I'm going to go do this myself. And when Trump took power and the Republicans took pretty much almost total control of Congress, it seems as if that message has just gone away.
I think it has, because I think what happened was that the true conservatives, a lot of true conservatives hold their values and they have been consistent. But I think they got a lot of following from people who weren't standing for something, they were standing against leftism. But now that they have the power, they don't actually have an ideology that they can govern on because they don't stand for anything. And it's really unfortunate that now, okay, you're in charge, what do you want to do? I don't know, I didn't think I'd get this far. So I'm waiting for them to have a sort of plan, a sort of ideology, a direction that they want to go into that's consistent. So far, we've seen Trump praise single payer. And I can't even be that mad or angry or disappointed with Trump because he's not a conservative. I didn't expect him to be. I sort of expect to get what we got. I was one of the people who said, vote Trump, get Pence. Or vote Trump and get Ryan. But so far, the Congress has been really dropping the ball on policy.
Well, it seems as if they're hinging their entire success on Donald Trump. Almost the entirety of the right, and we've seen this in poll after poll after poll. Republicans, people who are registered Republicans, are abandoning their principles. We saw a huge shift in how Republicans viewed free trade. We saw a majority view free trade as positive to now a majority view it as negative. We saw a huge shift in Russia, and a majority as of yet isn't viewing Russia as positive, but you're seeing that shift toward a majority viewing Russia as positive. We've seen a shift in WikiLeaks to a vast number of Republicans favoring WikiLeaks as unfavorable to now viewing them as favorable, and it's people becoming sick of principle, and you see it within the alt-right. They call conservatives cucks, and they call conservatives with principles cuck-servatives. But even though they're the most extreme, the average Joe, who is not the alt-right, or who is not, extreme populist, they're saying, I'm sick of principles because what do principles get me? And the huge problem with that is there hasn't been a Republican conservative really out there for a very long time with principles who has successfully implemented those principles in policy. I mean, what do you think?
I think you're right when people say, oh, who needs principles if you're losing? Okay, well, what's the point of winning if you don't have principles? Why do I want you to win if you don't stand for anything that I believe in? For that, I might as well vote for a Democrat. So, I don't get what their point is. Vote for me because I'll win. Okay, but do you stand for anything? No. So why should I vote for you instead of the other guy? Because I'm edgy. That's all the alt-right is. We're edgy. And I hate the latest wave of racial hoaxes or racial sort of conflicts on campus where someone will draw something or hang a sign or spray paint something. A lot of them do turn out to be hoaxes, but some of them are legit, and they're just from a bunch of people who are trying to get a rise or trying to provoke a reaction, even though they don't have anything legitimate to say, and it's really, really annoying.
Charlie Sykes was on MSNBC recently, and I know you saw this article as well, where he basically just can't, and I don't totally agree with his point because I think it is an overgeneralization. There are still principled conservatives within the Republican Party because, not everyone has shifted their views on free trade. Not everyone has shifted their views on Russia. These are just examples. Right. Not everyone has shifted their views on WikiLeaks. But Charlie Sykes came out, and to quote him here, he said, quote, "Conservatism, as I have understood it, has been eclipsed by this anti-Trumpism, by this cult of personality, by this tribal politics, where it's more important we score a win, and that we make liberals' heads explode, whatever that involves, than it is to stand up for a principle." It's very, very sad the direction the GOP is taking. Because, listen, even if the GOP was going in more of a populist direction, at least you'd have some sort of principles to stand on. You couldn't call yourself conservatives anymore, but you'd be principled populists. But This isn't principled at anything. You're seeing this huge skirmish within the GOP. It's this immense factionalism where you have conservatives on one side, populists on the other side, alt-right on one side, centrist writers on the other side. The GOP is such a mess right now because it's not just because of Trump. It's because the party is so diverse, you can't get a single position to put into policy and get popular support for it.
Right, absolutely. And honestly, I think the GOP is just going the same way as the left. They're going crazy by trying to please everyone and please no one at the same time, if that makes sense. By catering to the alt-right and catering to some of the worst parts of the party, but also it's like the GOP is sliding right and left on issues at the same time. Since when is the GOP big government? I guess that's fine. Big government's totally cool. I voted Republican, so we didn't have big government. I thought that was the point. It seems like the only difference between the two parties is just, do you want immigrants this year? No. Yes. That's the big difference. Do you want open borders? No, yes, but everything else? Do you want a blown out budget? Oh, yes, I do. Do you want to increase the deficit? Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, I'll give me some of that. Do you want to increase entitlement programs? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you want to increase limits on free speech? Yeah, sure. Now, sure, those on the right who are not in government have been very adamant about defending free speech, but unfortunately, those in government, they've just been sort of sitting on their hands letting all this happen. Every time I see something about Antifa attacking an innocent person, and I see these skirmishes on these college campuses, I think, where are the elected officials who are supposed to ensure the public good? Where are they? Why is Chuck Schumer the leader of the Senate and the president at the same time? Why are the Democrats in control of everything? I thought the Republicans had just won a majority in both houses in the presidency. From right now, I can't tell.
And that's the really interesting thing about all of this. With a majority, and you need, I believe you need about 60 votes to get a finalized budget to the president.
Right.
But with a majority, this was in Congress, this was such a huge win for the Democrats.
Yep.
Just to give a few examples, only 1% of the EPA's spending was cut. 1%. They still get 99% of their spending. Yeah. Trump got a fraction of what he asked for in terms of ramping up military spending. He got, I believe, about $1.5 billion extra border spending, but he can't use that to build a wall or to put extra ICE agents on the border.
Right.
There's more. There's even more. Like there was an extra $2 billion in funding to the National Institute of Health, I believe it's called, NIH, and that was something Trump said he was going to cut drastically. It's the very little conservatism President Trump had has been, I can't even blame him for this, has been canceled out by Congress's ineptitude to get good policy passed.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that's the real kicker there. Especially since a lot of people who did vote Trump in a sort of I'll hold my nose and vote for him way, they didn't really expect much from him, honestly. We just hoped, okay, we were hoping his failures wouldn't be too bad, and we were hoping his successes would be good. But we relied on Congress to shoulder a big part of the policy development. And so far, they've proposed Trump Care, which I don't think anyone likes, really, honestly and truly, and the omnibus package, or the omnibus spending bill, which there's no wall, and Ann Coulter's pulling her hair out, and they're funding all the things Democrats like. So, where's the winning? I want to start winning again.
I can just imagine Ann Coulter in a mental asylum right now, rocking herself back and forth. Where's the wall? Where's the wall? Where's the wall? Where's the wall? She was freaking out on Twitter when this happened, and she's still freaking out on Twitter because she literally wrote a book called "In Trump We Trust."
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Ann Coulter. She does care about some conservative stuff, but not really. She's not really a conservative. She's more anti-immigrant. And you brought this point up earlier. We're seeing the GOP and the Republican Party simply turn into anti-immigrant. And
Right.
That's good in the sense where they're anti-illegal immigrant, but you're also seeing people turn anti-legal immigrant, being against the idea of H-1B1 visas, or H-1B1 visas. And listen, I understand there's been some corruption in the past with that whole visa program. There has been. But they're against the very idea of getting specialized skilled workers from other countries into America.
Right.
It's astounding. And you saw this transformation of being simply anti-immigrant with the rights. It wasn't just the alt-right, by the way. I saw some very avid Trumpers who are just populists supporting this woman, Marine Le Pen in France. She is, by all by all definitions, she's a socialist. But you saw a lot of people on the Trumpian right, which is now becoming the mainstream right, supporting her simply because she is anti-immigrant. And don't get me wrong, Macron wasn't much better. But in terms of immigration, he's an atrocity. but
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. We saw a lot of vigorous, passionate support for Le Pen. I get saying she's the lesser of two evils, because in that case there literally were two socialists running. But the amount of passionate support we saw for her coming from the American right, it just astounded me. Like, what did you think of that?
Honestly, I'll say it again. It's just a bunch of people who aren't for anything. They're just against something. They're against the left. They're against immigration from these radical Islamic countries, and they're against immigration from Mexico. And that's all fine and good to be against something, but what do you stand for? Because when you're handed the baton, when you're in charge, you have to have a worldview and have an idea of policy and have the temerity to create things that you want to see. And complaining about what the other person does isn't going to get it done. And so, one thing I thought was funny is that Lauren Southern got so mad at Le Pen losing that she went and shot migrants with fireworks or something. She said, "Oh well, if she's not going to stop it, I'm going to stop it myself." And she got arrested by the Italian Coast Guard. I think
she shot like a flare at a refugee boat. I don't know. I think there were refugees on it. I forget if it was they were going to pick up refugees or they were coming back with refugees, but it was like a government vehicle.
That was
and
a
she
crazy
shot
story.
A flare near it or at it or something like that.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. So honestly, I don't see where this is going to end up. I couldn't tell you. I wish I could say this is going to end up good for the Republicans, but I don't. So far, like if you're going to get destroyed in 2018 by the Democrats, at least do a bunch of conservative things before, and then worry about the consequences when they take back the House. But don't do anything that's like half-hearted, because then they'll take it back easier. Like if you want to lose a House anyway, do some things you actually want. Stop making deals with them. You have a majority. Use it. But I think the main difference is that the Republican Party has so many moderates there. And I think the issue is that the Republican Party doesn't have one unifying vision like the left does. Like, we have a spectrum of values on different subjects, like climate change, like abortion, like healthcare, while the left, free healthcare, free college, free abortion on demand all the time. So it's very easy to unite their base on that.
Personally...
Oh, sorry.
That heterogeneous kind of mixture of the GOP, and I'll let you finish, but it's just, that has always been, until recently, a redeeming quality. Because at the end of the day, as a party, you do have to have a good sort of unity. But you don't want to have a homogenous mixture of people agreeing with everything everyone says. You want people challenging your worldview. You want people challenging your philosophy because it makes it stronger. But we're at the point now that they can't agree on anything.
No, they can't agree on anything, so they can't really get anything done effectively. And when people say, how did Trump win? How did Trump win? It's actually very easy if you're paying attention. During the primaries, initially there were like 17 Republican candidates, and Trump had just enough of a base. They keep winning and winning and winning. If you notice, the same amount of people voted for him every time. It's just all the rest of the Republicans were spread out among the Rubios, the Cruzes, the Carsons, the Fiorinas, and so it wasn't really focused. I think if initially, like at the beginning of the primaries, it was Cruz versus Trump, Cruz would have destroyed him. But by the time he got to the end of the primaries, Trump had won so many places that it was impossible for Cruz to catch up. So I think a big part of that is the Republicans let so many people run, it was hard to get a focus on their base and let two people duke it out for the primary. It's unfortunate, and it's why Trump won the primaries, but it is what it is. The ideological difference really came to bite the Republicans in the butt. Now, I'm not saying go and get superdelegates that fix elections like the Democrats do, but you have to do something where you're actually zero in on two candidates that are capable of running the country effectively and being able to do that. And he won a general because not because he got people to come out in historic numbers, but because Hillary didn't get a lot of people to come for her in historic numbers. I think the African American vote was down 7%. Because of her. She just didn't generate interest. So when Republicans treat this win as like, yeah, this is a big validation of us. No, it is not. You were lucky they happened to run the worst candidate ever. Because if they ran anybody else, it would have been over. If Sanders would have won, we'd been having to say hello to President Sanders and I would be eating my cat because America would be a socialist wasteland by now.
That's the thing. The GOP is really good at being an opposition party, though. So with President Sanders, I wouldn't have worried that much because he is so extreme. Even for, I think, a lot of the left, he is so, at least for right now, he is so extreme that the GOP may have been able to stay popular by simply opposing him. But here's the thing, because we've come full circle kind of on the factionalism thing within the GOP. I did want to bring up this final point. I wanted you to comment on it, and then I wanted to move on more onto the subject of what do you think the fate of conservatism is in the United States today.
Okay.
But during the Russian Revolution, when the Bolsheviks were fighting kind of the Russian monarchy or the temporary Russian government, you saw two armies kind of emerge. It was the Red Army and the White Army. Mm-hmm. And the Red Army was this united Bolshevik front. They all held one ideal central, and maybe there was a little bit of a variation every now and then between how they believed communism should work, but they believed in pretty much just absolute communism.
Right.
And they were united in that sense, and they were a united front, the Red Army. And then on the other side, you had the White Army, and the White Army was very factionalized. You saw people who wanted to put the monarch back in power. You saw people who wanted a constitutional government. You saw people who were capitalistic. You saw the rich and powerful of the country supporting this side. It was a diverse set of views. At the end of the day, the Red Army, even though it was a bloody war, the Red Army pretty much crushed the White Army. And that was because they were united in message, they were united in ideology, and at the end of the day, that caused them to be united in their fighting. While the White Army, there was a bunch of infighting and a bunch of distractions from what was really the threat at hand, which was the Red Army. They couldn't get it together despite being funded by, the international community, most of the international powers. And they lost. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm really seeing this take place again with the Democrats and the Republicans. You have the Democrats who are staunch socialists, staunch leftists, and you see them gaining more and more unity every single day as the moderate liberals are either kicked out or forced to conform with radical views. Right. And you have this united front of Democrats. And then you have the Republicans on the other side. You have the conservatives. You have the centrists. You have the populists. And they're so focused on infighting that they're not focusing on what is important, and that is coming up with some sort, for a party at least, because a party can't totally represent your views 100%, coming up with some sort of compromise, united set of viewpoints. And they can't do that, and that's helping the Democrats win.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And unfortunately, as we both know about Russian history, the sequel to what you just laid out wasn't much better. After the Red Army won, this was in the early 1920s, Lenin, who was a leader of the Red Army, got sick. But before he passed, he actually passed a lot of laws within the Russian government to prevent factionalism. He basically said, we need to stand united as a Red Army to make sure our country is united so we can get things done. And so he banned a lot of dissent, banned a lot of avenues where people could have differing opinions. And after he passed, Stalin took the reins. And he used those already established laws to consolidate power even more so. And all of his rivals that were with him during the revolution, he purged them. He rounded them all up, rounded up their families and shot them. And he used that foundation laid down by Lenin to springboard into his dictatorship that lasted another 30 years. And I think you're absolutely right that the Republican Party is at a dangerous place right now, where their unfocused message is yielding in opposition against the united front of the Democratic Party. They're socialists, they're authoritarian, they're anti-free speech. That's part of the reason why I did vote Trump, because I was very afraid of the kind of presidency we'd have with Hillary Clinton, where the media wasn't paying attention to her or was lying for her. There would be no accountability from Congress, like more Obama. And not so much that Hillary Clinton was dangerous, but the person after her would be even more dangerous. Usually when dictators rise to power, it's not because of anything they did. It's because of the power that was consolidated and given to their predecessor that they didn't take and abuse. And I was really worried about that. And that's part of the reason why I pulled a lever for Trump. But one thing that does concern me is the left's hatred for free speech. Because that's what builds dictators. That's where they come from. An argument or a point that I'll make to people who say hate speech isn't protected is, who decides what hate speech is? Sure, today it might be someone you like, but tomorrow it might not be. And then what? You can't say anything because then they'll round you up and shoot you, or they'll round you up and throw you in jail because you gave your right to protest away. It's amazing that the party that is so afraid of fascism and dictatorship is anti-gun and anti-free speech. It boggles my mind that they can honestly say that they're anti-fascists when they want to take people's guns away and silence them.
You know, when I was in high school, really quick, I actually, to toot my own horn here, I won an essay that won a local VFW contest, and it was about, the theme was my responsibility to America, and I wrote that my responsibility was to protect free speech. And I think I was totally right, obviously. Yeah. But I think I was totally right at the end of the essay, where I basically said, unless speech explicitly calls for violence, like, go out there and kill that person, it shouldn't be censored.
Right,
like, exactly. Censorship itself should be censored. It's ridiculous that we even allow these people, and by allow, I don't mean like stifling their free speech to say we want censorship. I mean giving these people any sort of credence. It's ridiculous how we allow these people to espouse these ideas pretty much, as a country, unchallenged, because we think free speech is just this unarguable topic. But if we don't argue for free speech, and we don't argue why it's the right thing to do, and I've seen this a lot within the conservative movement and the Republican Party, they think free speech is just an unarguable aspect. Well, it's free speach, so it has to be there.
Yeah,
you have to find out an argument for free speech. You have to argue why free speech is essential to a thriving society. Otherwise, they'll win. Otherwise, they'll sneak attack you in the culture, and they'll suddenly take over. That anti-free speech sentiment will take over the culture. You have to combat these people in terms of debates with words wherever they pop up. Like if you get the opportunity to debate a leader of Antifa, like civilly debate. If you get the opportunity to civilly debate a Marxist who is against free speech, take that opportunity. Because if you don't, it makes you look weak. It's saying to people who are skeptical about free speech that free speech should be here because it's free speech doesn't work. You have to come up with a good argument for it.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely correct there. I am a person who believes that a man has 3 covenants in his life: with God, with his country, and with his wife or spouse, in a sense where every citizen of a country has a duty to uphold the values and ideals of that country, but then the government has a covenant with him to uphold his individual liberties and individual rights. So we as citizens have to value those ideas of liberty, of free speech, of being able to do and say as we choose that doesn't hurt anyone. Physically, not emotionally. I think the problem is that the left has this idea that people should be protected emotionally, but that doesn't work in a court of law because emotion is subjective. There's a reason why physical assault is a crime. It's objectively hurtful, but words are not. Some people feel more strongly about being called different words than others, and so there's no way to actually put a legal precedent on that unless it results in imminent lawless action. But there is an excerpt from Reagan's A Time for Choosing that I think needs to become more popular these days, because one thing that happens on the right is we let too much ground. Okay, you can have this. Okay, you can have this. Okay, we'll let you do this. Okay, you win this argument. You'll win this argument. Like, single-payer healthcare is going to be a thing soon because we lost the argument of people have a responsibility to buy their own healthcare and pay for their own things. It's over. Now it will be political suicide for anyone to really cut Obamacare honestly and truly, because they know that people expect the government to provide that. So here's the excerpt that I want to read. This is like the closing of his speech. He basically says, "You and I have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay. There is a point beyond which they must not advance." The Republicans had to start drawing a line in the sand. No, we can't do this. No, this is too far. We're not going to give you ground here. The fact that people have an idea in their minds that something like Planned Parenthood, there's no argument, no debate. It's fine for everyone. It provides services to low-income women that you can't take away. Okay, how about this? The government provides those services. We cut Planned Parenthood. Oh, well, no. How about this? We defund Planned Parenthood unless they promise not to do abortions anymore. No. That's because they know what they really want. And I think deep down leftists know this. They know what they're really asking for. A lot of the the leaders of the movement. But the problem is that we allow this sort of sleight of hand to go on. And we've also lost the culture to the point where people get a lot of their news and their information from comedians, from satire networks like The Daily Show or Last Week Tonight, where they get informed on one side of the topic and suddenly it becomes a fact to them. And so if you tell someone, no, you're wrong, you're not telling them they're wrong about a fact, you're telling them you're wrong about their worldview, because it's just become their worldview. And that's why these people are going crazy. They're screaming, they're kicking people, not because they feel as though they're wrong about the principles of economic policy, but they feel as though their worldview is falling apart and you're challenging it and you must be silenced. So I think it's a very dangerous precedent indeed.
Well, that's the thing. Leftism has, you see a lot of apparent secularism on the left.
Absolutely.
And of course, a lot of people on the left are I guess you could say they have a religion. That's not what I'm saying here. But you see a lot of secular attitude. Like, let's keep religion out of government. But leftism has become their religion.
Yeah,
If you challenge it, you get crucified.
Yeah, if you challenge it, you'll get all of your possessions taken from you. They'll say you need to get your possessions taken from you. You'll get paraded in front of everyone in a way of humiliation or disgrace, and no one will talk to you anymore. You'll be shunned and become an outcast. And I do think that it's starting to become a religion. One thing that I'm starting to see is as society becomes more secular, it also becomes more nihilistic, because they feel as though there's no real objective reason to have morality, in a sense where morality begins to erode the more secular society becomes.
So, we've kind of gotten a little off topic here, but I think it's really been beneficial. That's kind of why I allowed it to keep going. But I wanted to ask you, because you debated the Drexel Democrats. You seem to be really in tune with how your campus culture is going, like in what political direction it's going. Mm-hmm. You tell me, just as someone who is in college right now, who is soon to go into the real world and get a job or an internship, who will have to deal with, the politics of everyday life. What do you think the future of conservatism is in America? Do you think it's done? It's over? Do you think it just had like a little spat and now it's done, or do you think there's still a long-term goal and ability and likelihood that conservatism will stay alive in
Well,
America?
I don't know. I'm not going to give you an optimistic take on this because college campuses are factories turning people who don't know anything about the world into people who think they know everything's wrong with the world. I've seen so many people dump on capitalism in my business classes, and they don't know or have any idea what they're talking about. I actually got into an argument with a guy in my class because I think I told you about this a few days ago. We were talking about wages and how some people make more and some people across different colleges at university make more, like the business school and the school of engineering make more in internships than the college of arts and sciences or the college of fine art. Now I was saying yes, it's business skills or engineering skills are worth more, and people took that as a shock, like what? I said yes, some people get paid more because they are worth more. End of story. So a person said, "Oh, are you saying people are paid by their worth?" No, they're paid by their skill set. There's a reason why a neurosurgeon makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, while a person who flips burgers only makes maybe like $30,000 a year. That's because one person's worth more than the other. And he said, "Oh, well, you can't do that. You can't." Yes, I can, because someone took time to acquire the skills of a neurosurgeon in order to save people's lives. Society has a much more vested interest in people becoming neurosurgeons or burger flippers, so society allocates funds to pay them. That's just how it is. And the professor stopped it before I got to ask, okay, why are you in college? I'm in college to get more skills. Why? Because you want to get paid more? Yeah, okay then. Like, I don't get what the idea. I don't get why people have a negative idea of wealth, but people also want wealth. They hate the rich until they become rich. And Jordan Peterson said this the best. Antifa and their ilk, they basically want all the benefits of having all the money in society, but also want all the benefits of having none of it. They want the benefits of being the little guy, but also none of the responsibility of being the big guy and vice versa. They just want it all. They want to have their cake and eat it too. Unfortunately, I think the future of conservatism is very challenged because, one, people are bought and sold on the idea of big government. It's just a way of life. Small government ideals are not popular. People feel as though the government owes them something, which is dangerous. But also, conservatism is the idea that, yes, we'll leave you alone as a government, but you have to fend for yourself. You have to make your life fine. You have to go after the things that you want yourself. And a lot of people don't like that because part of that is life is hard, and having to go through and make your own path is hard. And so the next generation coming up and graduating these universities, being coddled by these professors, being coddled by their teachers in K through 12, going into the real world thinking, okay, I'm owed something. Real life is going to kick them in the teeth. And it can go one or two ways. Either they get kicked in the teeth, they pick themselves up and realize they've been lied to and become more conservative, or they lie on the ground and feel as though the government should be mommy and daddy, and the government should save them and help them from experiencing the consequences of their actions. And I feel as though it's going to be the latter. It's easier for people to say it's not my fault than I need to pick myself up.
Well, here's the thing, I'm just going to be presenting this as an example because I believe you brought it up a little earlier in your talk there. I never understood why the left was so for single payer, unless, like you just said, they want government to be mommy and daddy. They want government to have full control over their lives. Once the government totally controls your health care, they own you.
Right, absolutely.
That's just a fact of the matter. They own you. There's no if you pass single payer, there's no constitution. You tell me if I'm wrong because you've been in politics longer than I have. You're more knowledgeable than me. There's no statute in the Constitution. There's no amendment that states that if single payer were to be passed, the government can't just suddenly pull your health care, or the government can't just suddenly ration health care away from you. They own you.
That's in there. I mean, it's
really?
It's like welfare, where people get on welfare, they're on it, and then they get it cut, and they don't know what to do.
Well, so then essentially, just like welfare, the government does own you. They can pretty much do what they want.
Right, they can pass whatever regulation or whatever hoop you have to jump through to be on it. And if you don't have the money or resources to get your own health care because you're so used to single payer, then you'll have to do whatever the government wants. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. The same people who say they're anti-government, they're anti-fascism, want the government to be present in every facet of your life. I don't get it. And I think it's because they have this idea that if the guy I like is in office, then it'll be fine. But what happens when the next guy shoots him in the back of the head and takes control? Who's in charge
Exactly.
then? And suddenly we're in Soviet Russia. I actually talked about this in an article I wrote for Lone Conservative called "The Last Road to Serfdom," where I basically said their idolization of big government is going to lead America to becoming a socialist country, where you'll give so much power to the government and then the person's going to usurp it and use it for themselves. And suddenly, oh my gosh, maybe we shouldn't have, but it'll be too late.
Well, here's the thing, and I hate to use Stalin and Lenin again, because the left isn't, totally communist yet. All right, this is just an example of what big government can do. Now, first off, Lenin was still a scummy guy. I don't like when people say, "Oh, Lenin was the better one. Lenin was how communism should be done." Lenin killed millions of people.
Yeah.
Let's just get that out of the way right now. Lenin killed millions of people, but he wasn't as bad as Stalin. Okay, Stalin killed more millions than Lenin did. But here's the thing. And here's what I don't get, especially since the left is now witnessing Donald Trump. The left gave all this power to Obama. They allowed him to get away with all this executive overreach. And one of the reasons now, not just because they think he's a fascist, quote unquote, the reason they're freaking out about Donald Trump now is because someone who they don't like, someone who they don't agree with, now has the sort of power that they gave Obama.
Right, absolutely.
Now has the sort of power that they've been giving the left. So that's the thing. Trump is the lesser example. Let's go to the more extreme example, where it seems this is where the left is shifting toward. They want total government control of most aspects of your life. Mm-hmm. Lenin is control of the government. Lenin's bad, but he's not as bad as Stalin. Lenin cared more about the people than Stalin did. Absolutely. Lenin dies. The authoritarian, they're both authoritarians, but the genocidal maniac Stalin takes over. And because of the power and the ability, like you mentioned earlier, that Lenin had set up, now Stalin not only has the same power Lenin has, Stalin can capitalize on it because there's this whole mentality of big government and government overreach.
Right.
That's what you're okay. So that's what you're looking at if you're the left right now. Sure, and this is the thing. They don't have any long-term vision. Sure, maybe a few people you like will get into power. Maybe they'll oppress your opponents. Maybe they will get what you want done. But at the end of the day, someone who you don't like, whether it be through assassination, whether it just be from natural, taking over of the old ruler, whether it be through election, someone is eventually going to take over who you don't like. And then maybe and Donald Trump isn't doing this. This is just, again, like the extreme communism example. And then maybe they start oppressing you. Then they'll start passing things you don't like. And then if you whine about it and you moan about it, just know that you put yourself in that situation.
Absolutely. One thing I saw is early on into his presidency, I saw someone say, "Man, I wish the military would stop Trump." I said, and put Obama back. I said, "Are you serious? You're asking for a military coup? Do you think they're just going to give the power back? No. That's it. That's the end of elections. Okay, we stop Trump. We can have elections again. No. Whoever is the leader of that coup has the power now, and that's how it is." But another thing that you touched on that I think is really important is that who is the successor? Like, okay, who's in charge after Bernie Sanders dies? After Elizabeth Warren dies? After Joe Biden dies? They're all around the same age. Who's going to be in charge after them? You don't know, because you don't know who's going to take that power. And, yeah, we can talk about Lenin and Stalin, but we also can talk about Mao. We can talk about what happened in Cambodia. It happened several times throughout history where all these people got in charge of the government and basically used it to kill the opposition. What really gets me is Antifa saying that we are living in a fascist government. Do you know what would happen if you really were in a fascist government? Or
you'd be killed.
Yeah, they'd round you all up and shoot you in public, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or they throw you in prison on some trumped-up charges. And it's amazing. And so if people read about how it was living in the Soviet Union, they wouldn't be so adamant about communism, I tell you that. They wouldn't be carrying around a sickle and hammer as if it's some sort of noble aegis of freedom. In the Soviet Union, it was a part of the culture where children would inform on their parents, spouses would inform on their spouses. It was terrible. No one could trust each other. And so if you were found to be in breach of the rules of the government, they would send you to Siberia without a trial and sentence you to hard labor. And that's just it. Your children will become wards of the state. And so the Soviet Union had an overwhelming vision of society as the death of the individual, and what was good for the collective was good for the individual. And people have this idea of communism where they can still keep their iPhones, still keep their computers.
No.
It doesn't work. Their idea of communism is just there's no poor people. That's it. It's really outstanding to me. It's really outstanding because also these Antifa, these leftists who love communism, they don't even like the poor. They hate the poor. They talk about poor people as if they're idiots. They say, "Oh, Trump's dumb voter base, these dumb unemployed." Like, aren't you supposed to be a champion of the common man? This communism stuff. How come you're talking about the common man in such a disparaging way? You just hate the rich because you're jealous of them. It's really amazing, especially since the rich are the main people who pay the taxes and give to charity. Every university that these leftists want to burn down was founded by some rich person. Carnegie Mellon was founded by Andrew Carnegie. Rockefeller University, Drexel University was founded by a philanthropist named A.J. Drexel. The University of Chicago was founded by a billionaire philanthropist. And they're kept going to this day by alumni money. So I don't get what their vision of the world actually is.
So I wanted to bring up one final point and then move on to the very last conversation of the show because we're starting to run out of time here. But here's the thing: I think we have to be fair to communism to some extent. We have to present their full argument. So their full argument is, and Marx wrote this in the Communist Manifesto, that greater government control is only temporary. After a utopian society has been achieved, government goes away, prices go away, everyone serves everyone else. Basically, the end goal of communism is where no one's poor, everyone has equal outcome, everyone serves everyone else, there's no government authoritarian. This is the thing. There will always be government authoritarianism under communism.
Yeah.
Because the end goal, like Marx states, because I just have to be fair, because when they say, oh, real communism has never been tried, this is the real communism they talk about. It's a utopian society where everyone serves everyone else, there's no prices, everyone's equal. Okay, here's the problem with communism. Humans are naturally greedy. Not only that, but humans are naturally innovative. And if you innovate a brand spanking new, amazing product, you're going to want more than other people for innovating that product. Mm-hmm. So my question is, in that utopian society, when government disappears, who forces people to continue the trend? Because if you think they're going to continue it by themselves, you're dead wrong. What happens, let's go in more in depth. What happens if someone becomes a venture capitalist or a capitalist, and they say, you know what, instead of us giving each other equal products, like you give me one rabbit for me giving you one pig, how about instead you give me 10 rabbits, and I want one pig. And because that guy controls the pigs, who's to say no to him? Number one, communism would create that utopian society would likely create a monopoly. But let's say he's trying to be a capitalist. Let's say he doesn't want to give up one pig for 1 or 2 or 3 rabbits. What's going to happen then? Who's going to force him? You're going to have to force him if you want that utopian society to keep going, or it just instantly falls apart. That's the thing. Authoritarianism always exists under communism. Always. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that communists don't have a grip on the idea of where prices come from. The reason that we have money is because it's a placeholder for values. You can't just trade rabbits for pigs, because what if the guy who has pigs doesn't want rabbits? Where do you go?
Exactly.
I'd find someone who wants rabbits. Okay, have fun going 15 towns down until you find someone who wants a rabbit, even though it would be a lot quicker if you just say, oh, rabbits are worth $10. I'll give you $10 for your pig, or I'll give you $10. It moves things along. It's the reason money exists. But another thing that they don't understand is that if there's a government that creates this utopia, who's just going to say, you know what, I'm good, here you go, I don't want power anymore, I'm done. That's never going to happen. But also throughout history, after the collapse of an actual government, that would be the real horror show. If there was no government, it would be total chaos, because the guy with the biggest gun or the biggest amount of resources to amass an army would become the government. Might makes right. And so they would just take things over. Like, I use the example of what happened after the fall of the Roman Empire in the 496. Essentially, it was a time where people were ruled by different gangs of barbarians and different gangs of warriors and such, because they would be in these small villages not protected by a central government anymore. And so whoever had the biggest sword was in charge. And people were at the mercy of these. You had to pay tribute. Sometimes entire villages would get killed. So I think a power would grow in that vacuum. Either that or another country would just take it over. Like, are you serious? There's no government. And so Russia or China is just going to say, oh, okay, there's all this United States resources. They're peacefully sharing things along. We're just going to leave them. No, we're going to go conquer that. Because there's no central defense system to allow that country to be sovereign. It's really ridiculous. And then these people still don't believe in guns. Who's going to take the guns if there's no government? It's really ridiculous.
Well, that's the thing. And, maybe just to sum up my example really shortly, the whole thing is what happens, because maybe the bunny, you don't know how many bunnies would be considered profit for a pig. I have no idea. But it's what happens when people start wanting profit. Who is to force them to not want profit? Again, you're going to have authoritarianism, and Kareem, you gave an excellent explanation as well. So moving on, last topic of the day, I want to end on some sort of positive note here for our lone conservative listeners. Kareem, we talked a little bit about what the future of conservatism is in America. You had a very negative prospect of it. I do too. But what can we do to start turning this around? Because I know it's not over yet. What can we do to start having conservatism make a comeback?
I think what we could do is we could get a bunch of t-shirts, right? And write conservatism is a new counterculture and give those away for free. I think that would really do it. But honestly, I think their way to do it would just be to talk to people. Well, one, be an example of what kind of success you can have when you realize that you as an individual have more control over your life than any government or any person. And the ability and the self-worth that you have as an individual when you go and try to achieve things is more so than any person dependent on government. Any leftist who I see who truly wants the government to fend for them, these Antifa people who, they're not showing their faces because they don't want to be identified by cops. They're not showing their faces because they hate themselves. Because they see, oh my gosh, this is what I am. They don't have high self-esteem. They don't have high self-worth. They're jealous of business people, of capitalists who are successful, who will go around into a room full of people, their face up, looking high. They actually have faith in who they are. And I think that people's environment is greatly influenced by how they are inside. And so when you have schools or where you have gyms or you have places where these leftists are where they can't even have mirrors because they're afraid it'll harm people's self-esteem, are you saying that your self-esteem is so fragile that you can't even look at yourself? Wow, you are messed up, sir, or madam. And I think that what we can do as conservatives is to show people this is what you can do. You can have your sense of self-worth by going and trying to achieve great things. It builds character. You want a house, go and get it. You want this job, go and get it. You want to pursue this skill, go do it. But you're responsible if you succeed, if you fail. But if you succeed, it's that much more satisfying. I think we need to instill that in people. And it starts in the home. One thing we can understand is that as people who believe that family is the most important thing in society, it starts at home. We have to live it. We have to be examples of what our ideology is. And part of it is people have been turned off by politicians who say they're conservative, but don't preach it, don't live it. And so it's one thing to say that I believe in free trade, I believe in morals, I believe in being good to your family. But it's another thing to live it totally and honestly. You can't say Bill O'Reilly is a conservative when he's been married 3 times. You can't say Rush Limbaugh is a conservative when he's been married like 5 times. You have to have people who live it and who are actual role models in the movement to be able to say, you know what? This is something I want to aspire to. This is something I want. This is something I want for myself. And I think the next generation will follow suit.
Kareem, thank you so much for coming on. And tell the people out there where to find you. Tell them what you're working on. If you have any projects that you want to inform people about.
Okay, well, I'm co-host of On the Line on LoneConservative.com, and my Twitter is Kareem Mathias1 @Kareem Mathias1. So yeah, that's my Twitter handle. It's probably on LoneConservative.com. And besides that, I'm not working on much of anything but my college coursework because I want to graduate. So if you want to ask me questions, tweet me and I'll respond.
All right, Kareem, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, this has been the next episode of Campus Conservative. We'll see you again next Tuesday. Thank you so much. And if you want to hear more from me, follow me on Twitter at Lord Chafee. If you want to hear important announcements about the show, follow the show on Twitter at Campus Con Show. And of course, Lone Conservative at Lone Conservative, L-O Conservative. Guys, thank you all so much for viewing today, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Again, see you again on Tuesday.